What's going on, everybody? So I've ranked the first entries and the second entries, and now it's time to rank the third entries because you guys seem to really like these rankings. Don't know why, you just do. These are getting a lot of views, so why not? Let's continue this and go over the third entries. Now, the first entries, all 10 I thought were good movies. All right, all of them. The second one, there was a couple of bad eggs, and now the third one, this was the most difficult one to rank because I love so many of these. Honestly, like the only one, probably my number 10 is the only like bad one, but it's got some charm, like some good things about it that I like. So let's go into it. What is my number 10? Let's pull up that list and I shall tell you because I do not have it pulled up right now. Now I do. Here it is. My number 10 is Wrong Turn 3, Left for Dead, right? Now, this one came out probably around 2007 or 8. I was like 13, 14 at the time. I really liked this one as a kid or a teenager. When this came out, I watched it a bunch. It was probably my favorite at the time over 1 and 2. This one just has all kinds of good gory kills in it, and if a movie had good gory kills in it, that was all I needed. Story and character development was irrelevant. Just cool kills was all I asked for. And this one has it in spades. There's some stupid CGI enhancements here and there, some CGI moments that are just awful. The guy getting cut in 3. They do like a mixture of both CGI and practical. The practical looks great, but the CGI can go fuck itself. We got the main killer here. The group is like getting diminished as the series went on. You know, it went from like 3 to a whole family, and then now it's just one and this little kid who gets dispatched very quickly. I feel like they should have did more with that little kid hillbilly, but they just dispatch him very quickly. They don't do much. All these characters are shitty in this movie. They're felons and crooks. They're just assholes, really. You can't get behind any of them. You're just waiting for them to die. They're cannon fodder. They're poorly acted. This one is easily one of the most poorly acted out of all 10 movies I am going to talk about. So that's why it's so damn low. It's also been a very long time since I've seen it. I own it. But I have some nostalgia for it because I saw a bunch when it came out, like I said. So it's still not a terrible movie. If you're into gore and you're just wanting to see creative kills, this one has plenty. So it's still a fun movie and not a terrible movie in this list. So just like my first entries, third entries, I think all these are decent to great. Unlike my second entries where the bottom 2, I was like, I don't care for these movies at all. Leprechaun 2, Hellraiser 2. I know I get shit for it, but Hellraiser 2 just does not work for me. Do not care for that movie. Speaking of Hellraiser 2, number 9 is Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. This one really expands the scope and feel of the franchise. Even though the budget wasn't that big, it was probably just a little bit bigger. So they go down the streets of New York, things are blowing up. This one's like the slasher. This is the most slasher feeling Pinhead movie of the whole franchise. And this one has the most Pinhead on screen time. He's got a lot of good lines in this movie. There's a lot of cool visuals. Him in the church, I am the way. You got some hokey Cenobites that are introduced. They get rid of the other ones. They introduce these new ones. And the new ones are meh. But I love that massacre scene. CDs flying. All kinds of cool kills. There's some CGI here and there. Doug Bradley, his soul, is separated from the good version of him, the bad version, and he has to fight his inner demons or whatnot. I like Doug Bradley playing, the human version of his character. I forget his name, but I like that story going on. Some good performances from Doug Bradley in this one. Next up, we got a movie I just saw recently for the first time, and that is Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. This one, I think, has one of the scariest performances or interpretations of Leatherface. Next to the remake, that will always be my favorite. That's the scariest Leatherface to me. This one has a pretty scary one, too. This one's more straightforward. They decided to go in a different direction from part 2, which was way more comedic and wacky over the top. They decided to go back to the roots of the first one and just be more of a dark comedy, but play it more straightforward and serious. There's some moments that are funny. You got Leatherface playing on this little toy. He's like a rebellious teenager. That's the phase he's going through, supposedly, in this one. I like that he fights back against his family in that one scene where he throws that guy in the oven, like, I ain't gonna take your shit no more. And I like that. I like Ken Foree in this movie. The battle between him and Leatherface, and him and Viggo Mortensen. I forget the character's name in this movie, but their battle, the soundtrack, it's badass. The MPAA unfortunately cut this movie to shit, and it's very generic, and especially the first half. It's a repeat of the story of part one. People traveling down the road and in Texas, they break down or they just come across the crazy family, and now they gotta try to survive. But I enjoyed this movie, especially the second half. It was very fun. It was surprising. I was not expecting what I got, and I enjoyed it. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, right here at number 8. Number 7 goes to Dream Warriors, and you're probably like, what? Top 3, baby. I did not grow up with this franchise. There's not much nostalgia attached to this, but I will say that this is a good movie. I don't think it's bad. It's actually my favorite of the franchise. A lot of these threes are my favorite of the franchise. That's why I said this was the hardest one to rank, because this one on up, they're all like my favorite of the franchise. Part 3, Final Destination, Child's Play 3, Saw 3. I love Friday the 13th Part 3, Leprechaun 3. Those are like all my favorites of those entire series. So this one was definitely the hardest to rank. But Dream Warriors, I love it. It's got one of the better Freddys. It's got some of the better dream sequences. It's got some of the better everything. It's got great lines. Welcome to prime time, bitch. Just so many great things about it. But I just prefer all the other movies above it. It's as simple as that. I like those movies more. I have more nostalgia for some of those movies I'm about to talk about over this one. I just never really revisited this one that much growing up until I went over this franchise a year or two ago. I had only seen every Friday Nightmare on Elm Street movie like once or twice. So it's just a franchise that I didn't grow up with. I don't have much nostalgia here, and that's as simple as that. It's not a bad movie. I'm not taking anything away from it. I enjoy it. Next up, we got Leprechaun 3. This one is just a blast from beginning to end. It doesn't take itself serious at all. And just like what I said with Dream Warriors, you can copy and paste that right here. Best Leprechaun, best lines from him. He rhymes the most in this one. Best kills, best tricks that the Leprechaun does on his victims before he kills them. Just, I love it. I love all the characters. They're all very memorable. You got Caroline Williams in here. Just so many great things about it. I just love it. It's a blast. There's hardly anything bad to say about it. It's just corny. It's low budget, low quality feeling, but whatever. The acting's not that great, but they're all over the top in a fun way. Next up, number 5, we got Friday the 13th, Part 3. 3D. Woo! Can you see that? Is it hitting you in the eyeball like the yo-yo and that one chick? Oh, that was close. What do you mean that was close? They hit your fucking face. I'll never get that scene. So, this one, I don't want to say too much about it because I got a review series coming out for this. I'm going to save all my thoughts for then. But right now, I'll just say I like the third act. This one has a pretty awesome third act. Final chase. Not the best final girl, but nowhere near the worst. It's got that cool sounding intro score, the intro where the credits come out in 3D. Just that soundtrack is awesome. It's a different change of pace from the first two that had the same score. It's very different. It's the most unique score of the entire franchise, easily, that sound. So yeah, I don't want to say too much. I love the kills. The characters are very stock, but whatever. Shelly's kind of annoying, but he gives Jason his mask. So that is redeeming for his character. I wish we could have saw Shelly die on camera. It's always pissed me off that character who gives Jason his mask dies off camera. That's bullshit. Just comes out like, Number 4, we got Saw 3. I want to play a game. This one, I feel like, started the template for the rest of the franchise when it comes to the torture and how elaborate things were getting. The first two were very smaller scaled. There wasn't as much torture as you might think if you go back and watch them. They're not nearly as torturous as 3 on up. I feel like this is the one that really started the torture element of the franchise. It's got some of the goriest kills, some of the worst traps that you would want to be stuck in the franchise. The rack, which is my favorite one. The guy's head twists all the way around, the arms, the legs. I love the twists in this movie. Some of my favorite twists are in this one. This is my favorite one of the franchise. This one has the balls to kill off John Kramer. So I love that. This is the last one written by Lee Winnell also, before they handed the keys over to Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton. I like the Amanda twist. I like that Amanda is in here a lot more, and the whole lobotomy thing, like the gore is on point in Saw 3, is underrated in my opinion. Everybody shits on 3 or puts it in the bottom, towards the bottom of their ranking. It's number 1 for me, and I'm sticking to it. So Saw 3 is my number 4. Happy, happy Halloween, number 3, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I love this movie, especially now that I'm older. When I was a kid, I saw it once, and I was confused as hell. Where the fuck is Michael? Did not expect what I got. The whole killer mask thing. It was definitely creepy as a kid, because seeing children die with masks on their heads like melting and like snakes coming out, it's a creepy ass image. There are some gory kills in this one. At the time, this was the goriest in the franchise, and still probably one of the goriest entries. You know, compared to 1, 2, 4, and 5 and whatnot, this is the goriest of the bunch. You got a guy getting his head pulled right off. This guy's nose bone, like whatever, just pull out his fucking face. It is vicious. You got Dick Warlock playing one of like the zombies or whatever you call them. I don't know what you call them. The plot's very weird, but I like that it's just so unique and out there. Tom Atkins is amazing. Him and his love affection for this girl, played by Stacey Nelkin. He's like fucking her, and then afterwards she's like, by the way, how old are you? It's just funny. It's got a lot of charm to it. It's got a catchy ass song in it. It's got one of the better John Carpenter scores. It's just a fun Halloween movie that I watch every Halloween now. It's just a fun movie, and I can say it for all these. These are all fun. Number 2 and number 1, basically, I don't know, like the top 3 or 4, I all tie for number 1, but number 1 and 2 are very nostalgic to me. So this was the hardest, definitely, was my first slot and second slot, and I had to keep going back and forth between them. We got Child's Play 3 and Final Destination 3. Which one's it going to go to? Number 2 is Child's Play 3. Alright, so this one, again, is a very underrated sequel, in my opinion. Like, it gets the most shit. Like, when you look up people's rankings, or you look up the Rotten Tomatoes score, and other, like, you know, critics and actual, like, critics, and at the time, what they said, this one was shit on. But I love it. It's basically a repeat of Part 2, done once again. You know, Chucky is after Andy. I get all that. Like, it's the same thing, so critics are going to complain. Rinse and repeat, but I like it. It's a good formula, and it works for me. I want to see Chucky hunt down Andy and see great kills along the way, hear a bunch of funny one-liners, have Chucky on screen for most of the time, and that's what you get in this movie. He's on screen so much. It's my favorite look of the doll, too, in this one. He's got so many great one-liners. He's got so many great kills that are just funny. They're not gory or anything, but they're just funny. The guy gets crushed in the garbage can. They kind of like, there's like a theme where like whatever that guy's profession is, that's how he dies. So the garbage man gets killed in the garbage truck. The toy company owner guy gets killed with one of his own toys. The badass sergeant guy, he has a heart attack because he's scared. So it's just, they're ironic deaths. The barber guy gets killed with the barber knife. Like, it's just funny. They're all funny kills. Presto, you're dead. It's one of my favorite lines from Chucky.
A haircut ain't regulation, soldier. Regulate this.
I just adore this movie. There's hardly anything bad to say about it. You could just nitpick stupid shit. Like Tyler, he's kind of annoying. He's a bad child actor. Why did they have to make Andy a 16-year-old when they could have just brought back Alex Vincent? It's odd that these kids are playing paintball with paintball guns that can somehow shoot live rounds also. And then there's just this big old carnival out in the middle of nowhere with this giant-ass carnival ride. Like, no, that would never fly. No one would spend that much money on that elaborate of a carnival ride for that place. Like, no. You have to stretch things. Like, yeah. So there's definitely writing flaws, but I don't care. I enjoy this movie. It is awesome. Every single time I watch it, I just love it. I'm just sitting there quoting the movie as it's happening. I've memorized almost the whole movie. I've seen it so many times. I love it. So Child's Play 3 is my number 2. So now let's move on to my number 1. Process of Elimination. Final Destination 3. I remember seeing this at the theaters with my mom, my sister, and her best friend at the time. I was probably like 11, 10 or 11. I was pretty young. And I remember going home that night and I could not sleep. This is one of the few horror movies as a kid, and that's probably why it's number 1, that genuinely scared the shit out of me because this movie is about death and paranoia. Like, death is out to get you. Anything could happen. Anything could, like, bump into this, and then this falls on you. Like, the deaths and the setups in this movie are brilliant, creative, and gory, and shocking, and awesome. This movie is just my favorite of the franchise, easily. Not only just because of the nostalgia. I saw it at the theater. It's the first one I saw. I didn't see 1 and 2 at theater, but I saw them before this. So that's why I went to the theater to see this one. But I just fell in love with this movie. I got it as soon as it came out the DVD, and I just fell in love. This movie scared the shit out of me. When I went home that night, I thought something was going to like crash through the roof of my house and crush me in my bed. I was frightened. This has the best kills. This has the most creative kills. Yeah, just creative, gory, brutal, vicious. The nail gun kill. That is just terrifying. To be in that girl's shoes, it is so gnarly. All the nails going through her head. I have it in my horror movie intro now. If you watch my horror reviews on Sunday, I have like this minute-long montage, and I put the nail gun kill in there because it's that great. And this movie has one of my favorite kills of all time. I won't spoil which one. You'll just have to guess. I won't say. It's not the nail gun one. That's a close contender. But of all time, every movie ever, this one has one of my favorites. Just probably number one if I think about it. So yeah, great kills. The score by Shirley Walker, rest in peace. This was like her last film that she scored. It's very reminiscent of the first two. It's got the same sound, but it just works the best in this one. The tone, it's just so damn eerie. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is my favorite main, premonition haver, whatever you want to call them. She's my favorite one of the franchise. She's the best acted, and she's just the best. She's awesome. Everything about this movie is just awesome. I love the roller coaster sequence. I remember before this movie came out, when I heard they were making the third one, I had just watched 1 and 2. I was like, I hope they do like a roller coaster or like a theme park and just shit goes haywire. Ferris wheel rolling around, falls on people. Just, that's what my brain was thinking about. And then when the trailer came out and I saw the roller coaster, I flipped out. I was like, I knew it. I somehow guessed it. They read my mind. And I was just so excited. So yeah, I just love it. I could like talk for 30 minutes on end about why I love this movie, but I'm not going to waste your time any further. Fuck, this movie is awesome. I love it. So Final Destination 3 is my number one. What is your ranking? What is your favorite of these 10 movies? Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button, share all your friends, and become a subscriber today if you haven't done so already, just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.